Rams. Let's talk about Matthew Stafford. Still working through issues with him with his contract. Reportedly, little progress has been made. He's coming off a very strong 10-7 season, that divisional round appearance in Philly, the penultimate year of a 4-year, $160 million extension, and the money that he's due really putting the team in a financial bind. Here's Adam Schefter.
Matthew Stafford and the Rams, as we tape this Tuesday morning, February 18th, they've been trying to see if they can work out a new contract. And if they can, Matthew Stafford will remain in Los Angeles and he'll remain a Ram. But he's due $35 million this year. None of it is guaranteed. And it's up to those two sides to figure out a number that the Rams can live with, that Matthew Stafford is more comfortable with, that would enable him to continue and finish his NFL career with the Rams. That's the goal, I believe, of both sides.
So as of now, Matthew Stafford's contract will give the Rams a salary cap hit of almost $50 million next season. That's the 5th highest of any player in the NFL. It will also be the highest cap hit in Rams franchise history. He does turn 37 this month. This will be his 17th NFL season in 2025. As you know, they've already told Cooper Kupp they're going to trade him. RC, let's start with you. What is the best move for this organization as it pertains to Stafford?
I mean, the Los Angeles Rams have done the improbable. Remember, everyone said when they were acquiring all of this talent, trading away those draft picks, it was like you may win right now, but then you're going to be in salary cap hell and your team's going to suck. Well, they haven't. But a large reason that they haven't is because Les Snead has drafted well. And on the other side of that, Matthew Stafford has continued to play at a high level. And so that salary cap hit is too high. But you have to ask yourself these questions. If it's not Matthew Stafford, then who is it going to be? And if we're going to lose him, then what are we going to get in return for Matthew Stafford? You've allowed yourself to continue to be competitive, not only in the NFC West, but the entire NFC, because you've made the right decisions in free agency and in the draft. This decision with Matthew Stafford made most important decision that he's had since being the GM, because if they want to stay competitive, they have to continue to be good at that position with all of the pieces surrounding him. You can't just walk. You have to make sure that who can play high level football.
All right, RC is obviously breaking up a little bit, but back to Lewis. What do you think is the best scenario for the Rams?
Yeah, look, Hannah, I think people get into trouble, teams get into trouble. But I think in general, people, when they're talking about, well, we should just trade away this very valuable asset and, use all those, pieces that we get back in terms of draft picks, all that draft capital to just go ahead and build out the rest of the team, as if you could just take a guy like Matthew Stafford and replace him with any old body. I think that really is foolish logic. I think RC laid out a very good point, which is this. Yes, it puts the onus on the scouting department and the coaching staff to go ahead and develop the rest of the roster, especially when you have someone like Matthew Stafford taking up a disproportionate amount of the salary cap. But guess what? If you flip it around and you take Matthew out of there, but then you think, hey, I'm a genius, I can just get all these other pieces and build it around whoever the next quarterback is, and you think you're going to have the same kind of success, I guarantee you're not. You're not going to have the same kind of success, because this guy is different. There's a reason why you pay him the way you do. There's a reason why Matthew Stafford is going to walk into the Hall of Fame. There's a reason why when we were watching him against the Philadelphia Eagles in the divisional round, and you see the no-look touchdown pass right there, that this guy was two plays away from maybe upsetting Philadelphia and knocking them out of the playoffs. He's different. He's a difference maker. I think they need to find a way to make this work and get him back in the fold for at least 2 to 3 more years. Because if you don't, and you do put him on the trade market, I'm lining up. I'm lining up at the door going, I want some of that. Yeah. I want Matthew Stafford on my team.
Yeah, playing at it.
Lewis, but isn't that the question that Les Snead is going to have to answer, though? He's going to have to figure out that on the other side, all of those people that are lining up to acquire Matthew Stafford, what can I get from him and for him? And also, too, how much does he have left in the tank? Do you believe that you're going to compete for a Super Bowl in the years that Matthew Stafford will be playing at a high level? And so for you, Lewis, if you're the GM, if you're Les Snead and you're the Los Angeles Rams, is there a price you would be looking for if you put Matthew Stafford on the trade market?
Yeah, the only thing I can say right now is it would be a high one, okay? A real high one, because I'll tell you what, do I think that they can compete for a Super Bowl title in the next 2 to 3 years? They could have competed to go to the Super Bowl this year, were it not for some critical errors made up front on the offensive line in a critical situation and turning loose one of the best players in the NFL, and Jalen Carter. I mean, they were right there. You saw how they dismantled Minnesota. Yeah. You know, this football team can play with anybody. They can play with absolutely anybody. And they have a new draft class coming in this year. So look, yeah, I do think that Matthew is a guy who can take you to the promised land in Los Angeles, or at least compete to take you there in the next 2 to 3 years, no question.
Yeah, and they did it in the snow, by the way, playing the Super Bowl champs tougher than anybody did. I want to get back to Schefter for just a moment, because he also weighed in on who he thinks could be a potential replacement for Stafford if it comes to that.
If the Rams couldn't get a deal done with Stafford, if they decided to trade him, a lot of ifs involved, then Aaron Rodgers, in my mind, would be thrilled with the idea of going to Los Angeles. And the Rams could probably get him at a lower cost than it would be for Matthew Stafford. They get draft pick compensation back for Stafford. So you could see where the Rams would say, is that a more desired alternative?
All right, let's just go along with this possibility. Sean McVay times Aaron Rodgers collab. Lewis, do you see that working?
Mm-hmm. You know, I talked about this earlier today on Get Up. I do suspect that would be something that could potentially work. And I'll tell you what, look, I think at this point in Aaron Rodgers' career, you don't want to have him come into an organization, or let me put it this way, he doesn't need to go into an organization where he can call all the shots. And he can just say, I want you to bring in this receiver, I want you to bring in this OC, I want you to bring in this quarterback coach, I want you to bring in this offensive tackle. Hey, I got another buddy that plays free safety who I think would be good on this team. That's just not going to work. He's already tried that. He needs to just play quarterback, which he does as well as anybody in the history of the game has ever played it. He needs to go somewhere where people are going to tell him, hey, look, we'll handle building the team. We'll handle constructing the offense. Obviously, you're going to have an input into that, given what your status is and what you have done in your career. And then we're going to try and build this thing, and we're going to try and make it such that we accentuate, your positive, try to hide some of your negatives, try to hide some of your decline, but we still think you can take us to a high level of play and have us reach some of our goals. Yeah, I think the Rams could be that kind of team for him. I think he would respect Sean McVay. I think that's how it could go there, and that could be one of those sneaky good signings.
Yeah. No, I actually absolutely agree with this. I think you can't necessarily look at all the things that happened with the New York Jets and just believe that Aaron Rodgers can no longer throw the football. He can no longer read defenses and put the football where they should be. And we've watched Sean McVay tailor things to allow quarterbacks to do what makes them best, to play to the highest of their potential. And Aaron Rodgers has had an opportunity to find the humility and know that I don't have all the answers. I can't move all of the chess pieces. And with Sean McVay, he's also someone that has earned the respect and has the cachet where he can go to Aaron Rodgers and say, this is how the offense should look. You can't tailor everything around him. And so if they can have that sort of relationship, those sorts of conversations, but more importantly, that level of compromise, I believe Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback that could succeed in LA and allow LA to succeed around him.
Yeah, and he was very good over those last 10 games as he was working his way back from the Achilles, and he does seem to be a guy who's very into self-reflection. So as you said, Lewis, maybe looking back on what didn't work at RC, looking forward would be a different story. We are just getting started. And this is good news for teams per our Dan Graziano. The NFL today informing teams that the 2025 per team salary cap will fall in the range of $277.5 million to $281.5 million. That is way up from last year's $255.4 million. The cap will have increased by more than $53 million over the last 2 years. Meanwhile, as of 24 hours ago, team can franchise tag their players. Here are some potential tag candidates, starting with the Chiefs' Trey Smith, a first-time Pro Bowler this season, won 94% of his pass blocks, well above the 91% average. How about Sam Darnold, also a Pro Bowler for the first time, ranked in the top 5 in the NFL in passing yards and touchdowns in 2024. Vikings don't use that tag often, by the way, on offensive players. The last time they did was 03. And here we are again with the Bengals and T. Higgins, career-high 10 TD catches last season. He would be the third wide receiver ever to be tagged multiple times, joining Chris Godwin and Rob Moore. Now, T. Higgins is just one question facing the Bengals as they try to build a team to get back to the Super Bowl. They got a taste of it. Looking ahead to 2025, Joe Burrow's record-breaking extension kicks in. Jamar Chase and Trey Hendrickson, you've heard all about it. Both salary cap hits around $20 million, both set to be unrestricted free agents at the end of next season. So I am finally done talking and setting the table. Time now for the experts. All right, Lewis, put your GM hat on. Give us a game plan for these Bengals not to bungle it.
Yeah, look, and I think obviously they're going to have to prioritize this big three that they have right now, that Joe Burrow and everyone else is talking about as being critical to the Cincinnati Bengals continuing their ascension, you know, in the AFC North and in the AFC overall. And by the big three I'm talking about, look, they have to prioritize Jamar Chase. We know how important he is to Joe Burrow's success. We know what kind of record-setting season he had this year and how he hit the trifecta in terms of receiving yards, receptions, and touchdown catches. When you do that, when you're a Triple Crown winner like that, you just have to make sure you take care of that guy. But Trey Hendrickson, when we're talking about the guys who are primarily responsible for slowing down the passing attacks in the NFL, we're talking about pass rushers. And Trey Hendrickson has been one of the best signings that Cincinnati has had in their history. He's a guy who's done nothing but produce for them since he stepped onto the field there in Cincinnati. You have to get him done. You cannot just let him walk and let someone else reap the benefits of how good he is as a player. And then T. Higgins has been someone we've been talking about for years. Every team needs a number 2 or a 1A. T would be a 1 at many other places, and there are plenty of people right now who would love for him to be a number 1. If you can fit them all in the salary cap,